Hello and welcome to the Slingshot channel. Today we want to try to max out the famous and extremely popular EK Archery RX adder here with the 7-shot new magazine with quick and speed loader functionality. In any case, I don't really have to explain that weapon anymore. It's the first repeating tactical crossbow carbine that's on the market. As you see, it's fairly easy to cock. It shoots great. And bang! And of course, as a repeating weapon, it is so quick to just have a follow-up shot. Bang! Now, a lot of people say, can you have more power? A lot of people also say this is too weak. If you increase the power, then all kinds of parts will give up. Well, we have to make sure. We have to test if this really is at its limit at 130 pounds. So we need to increase the power of the throwing arm. Let's take a look. This is the front end that you can get out just simply by pushing a rod out, and then AR-15 style you can take this one out. So as you see, it comes complete with a string stopper that in cocked condition is also nicely centered if it's in there. And you see that the throwing arm is one piece and it's actually squeezed in by this little grub screw here that presses on it. And if we look at it, we can see that there is enough space, if we leave some of these plastic things out, to squeeze in another throwing arm. Maybe not as thick as this one, but probably the 90-pound or even 110-pound variation, which is a little bit thinner. And the concept would be very much like leaf springs in the rear suspension of a truck. So you add more layers and you get more spring effect, more draw resistance. Not sure if this really translates well into energy, but let's try. And here it is. The new 240-pound throwing arm for the EK Archery adder. Let me show you its features. Okay, as you see, I simply put the 110-pound version, which is a little thinner than the 130-pound version, in here. I tried to put in two 130, but it wouldn't fit. Then it's just too tight in here. But this really works fine. I had to cut it here so that I could really shape this thing so that the string would not chafe against it. So this is pretty much the minimum that I could do. And I also tied it with Dacron, usually used for the making strings themselves. So, but this is more like cosmetic. I don't think it's even necessary to tie it. It just presses against the main throwing arm, and it is actually adding up. So is the power increasing? It is. It is. Let me show you how it shoots. But of course also it reveals the weaknesses of this. So for example, you could see the transport arm here that I had to strengthen by adding a massive 4mm steel piece to the thin sheet metal that they used, because this actually was the weak chain element, because it would try to bend, and that of course was no good. Now of course it's a serious piece of fitness equipment again. It's hard to cock. I can do this easily, but probably someone who is not working out frequently would have a hard time cocking it. In any case, now look at the tension. But look how nicely it spreads. There's no uneven points in here. It does exactly what a good throwing arm is supposed to do. I'm actually very happy how this came out. Okay, let's shoot. And fire. Did you see how fast that was? I actually clocked it, and it's now traveling at 105 meters per second. That is a whopping 344 feet per second. An incredibly high value for a pistol crossbow, which it basically still is. So I think it's a super result. It also ramps up the energy from about 35 joule to about 72 joule, so more than twice the energy. And how is that possible? I didn't double up the arms. Well, don't forget that this arm, the main arm, is actually now in a much more forward position. So this of course adds more tension. So if I would clock this, this would probably have twice the tension. It makes these differences. In order to find out what kind of difference this makes in the real world, we are testing 1mm steel sheet against 12mm plywood. Because we used this when we tested the impact of a 170-pound English longbow, and actually the arrows have been able to penetrate it without really poking out far at the other side, but definitely went through both layers. Let's see if the crossbows here can do the same. And we will be using these mean, high penetration, very sharp bodkin tips for both crossbows so that we can compare the effect. We're starting with the 130-pound easy to cock version. It's super light. And we're trying to hit a fresh spot on the target. It sticks in, who would have thought. Very powerful for a small bow like this, but this is because of the high penetration bodkin tips. Now we're using the gym class edition. Yeah! This is under so much strain, very hard. Whew. Forgot the safety. Whoa! Let's compare. Well, the outcome is pretty clear, even though it would normally have been a little bit more clear. Here you can see the heavy one and here the smaller one here actually. But so even the 130-pound bow penetrated about as much as the English longbow. You can see the tip is still poking out here. So it's quite interesting result. I have to say that this one would have penetrated more if we would have shot if it would hit it a little bit higher, because it was actually hitting the rubber padded catch box behind it. Now we want to see how deep it enters into the archery mat, and therefore it's training hour again. But you can see how reliable the weapon is. There's no problem, and also there's no problem with the knocks or something. The arrows are holding fine, and this is now quite like double the draw weight. It's amazing. Okay, let's see. Okay. In the high-speed recording, we can actually see that it entered here, even though, of course, there's no more trace from it. See, these are the bolts from the first shot, and as you can probably see, they are not in all the way. But this here is spectacular. Let's see if we can dig it out, how deep they are in. And as you see, the bolt is intact. Does this make sense? I don't think so. It's just too hard to cock. I think it is really a lot of stress. But you can see the quality of the product, quality of the trigger, the quality of the sear, the whole thing. The only thing that I had to definitely reinforce was this lever here. This one here. This is the only thing that I had to reinforce. All the rest is just functional, just a little bit hard to operate. But you see, there's no problem with the weapon itself. And it still shoots great. This actually, if you believe that this is 240 pounds, then you will understand that at 130 pounds, there is no danger that it will ever fail. Hopefully. Anyway, I hope you like this little extreme test. Don't do it at home because it could be dangerous. Thanks and bye-bye. Dang. Oh, and before I forget, you may want to check out GoGun.de, because we have Christmas presents now for you. Actually, special Christmas offers, great sets. I'm not telling you today what it is, but I can say that we're only offering it as long as stock lasts, and sometimes the biggest discount that we're giving is 56%. So check it out, GoGun.de, Christmas specials. And okay, I'll do one more for you. This time I'll turn around so you can see how this thing happens, how this thing behaves when I cock it. So much force. And bang!